that you go away from this thinking there's a certain diet that you need to eat when you have migraines or headaches. That's not at all my point. I just want to hopefully share with you some tools regarding what we're intaking may affect our frequency or intensity of our headaches. So, food and headaches, and I want to give you some background just before we start our discussion so that we kind of have a baseline of maybe some of the things that come up when you have headaches and you think about food and nutrition. So, Lara, like she said, I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm a family nurse practitioner by trade. I've been doing primary care for over 10 years, and I transitioned to neurology and then kind of found my niche in headache medicine because a lot of headache, I love what I love about it is the wellness piece. And I think there's so much we can do aside from meds to make ourselves feel better. And that kind of excites me. And I like to kind of delve into that. So I've been doing headache medicine for the last 4 or 5 years. So anyway, that's a picture of one of the salads my husband made. I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm a little hungry. I hope that looks good to you guys. So then we're starting there. A little background, other than the fact I'm a family nurse practitioner, it's kind of fun, is that I'm from Japan. So anybody that has ever been to Asia or has any ties to that, that's always fun. So that's a picture of Mount Fuji. Very pretty. I miss it. And hopefully we can travel soon. So when you think of dietary guidelines, the government or just overarchingly, there are people that sit down at a table and come up with these guidelines. So every 5 years they do this, and the latest one was ending this year at 2020. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the U.S. Department of Agriculture together jointly publish this. And that's a website. If you ever guys want to look at it, just Google that, it'll come up. And it's developed for use by policymakers, for nutrition, and for health professionals. But it's also used for those who want some type of guidelines to use in their programs, for policies, for communication for the general public. So obviously people use it in schools, but they use it in so many avenues. So that's where these guidelines come into play. What they recommend is that individuals will need to make shifts in their food. I really like that phrase. Shifts in their food and beverages choices to achieve a healthy pattern and acknowledge that all segments of our society have a role to play in supporting healthy choices. So I like to think of it as food choices has to be infused in every aspect of our lives, whether it be in school and lunches there to the snacking and the partying, the different segments of society. And we have to think about it all the time because obviously, as we talk about it with headaches, at any point in our lives, if food is introduced, it could cause or worsen our headaches. The big key here, though, is it's not a rigorous prescription, kind of like I mentioned in the very beginning. We're not going to be like, you need to eat exactly like this, and this is the way to be. Definitely not that. Embodies the idea that a healthy eating pattern is not a rigorous prescription, but rather an adaptable framework in which individuals can enjoy foods that meet their personal, cultural, and traditional preferences, and of course, fit within their budget. So everyone's pretty familiar with the old food pyramid that kind of is truly old. They transitioned to more of a healthy plate for a long time. And that's what you see here with the rainbow colors showing the different food groups on a plate. But I'm going to kind of go into it. I still think this is slightly old. It's just a good reference point of how to look at a plate. So you should include, per these guidelines, a variety of vegetables from all groups: dark green, red and orange, legumes, and starchy, so the rainbow. And then fruits, especially whole fruits. So when we think of that, that's not the fruit snacks. It's not the fruit in cups of juice. It is literally the apple with the skin, right? I see a lot of obviously younger kids, and it's definitely that fruit snack is I have my fruit for the day. Even if it says 100% juice, that's not whole fruit. So we don't get any of the nutritional benefit from that. Grains, at least half of which are whole grains. Fat-free or low-fat dairy, including milk, yogurt, cheese, fortified soy beverages, a variety of protein foods, including seafood, meats, poultry, eggs, legumes, nuts, seeds, and soy products. Now, remember, this isn't what I'm recommending. This is just the background of what the government in the 5-year program that they jointly recommend and publish. I'm going to kind of talk about more what we talk about in our headache clinic to our patients later on. But I just wanted to give you a background to show you where we are. They do also, other than including things like the fruit and the different food groups, they recommend limiting sugars, saturated fats, and sodium in these certain amounts. The American Headache Society, I'm not sure if everyone's aware of that, but is a national organization specifically for headache medicine practitioners to come together and educate and research and really try to figure out ways to improve headache in our population. And they advertised in their information for patient education um, two different handouts for pediatric migraine and diet and migraine. And under the pediatric migraine, they do recommend balanced plans, including medical, biobehavioral, nutraceuticals, and dietary modifications. In the past, we weren't supposed to mention food very much. So I like to mention that it is under American Headache Society recommended that we do address dietary modifications. Um, Under the diet and migraine, so more adult included population, they recommend a heart healthy Mediterranean type of diet. That's kind of the generally overarching diet that is recommended at this point for almost everybody to kind of just have a general healthy view. But they do mention beware of fasting, high sodium processed food, tyramine, which is found in cheeses, sulfites, histamine, caffeine, MSG, etc. So the top topics regarding food and headache. You hear a lot about food triggers, elimination diet, the keto diet, the Mediterranean, and the anti-inflammatory diet. So food triggers, this may be where everyone's really familiar, or maybe some people haven't heard about it. The one most everyone knows is caffeine. We use it either to stop headaches, or we use it because we drink it all the time and it causes headaches. Caffeine is one of the biggest things that can really affect it one way or another. Really, when we have daily headaches, I recommend eliminating caffeine 100%. And then once we're down to less frequent headaches, you can see if you can bring it back into your routine, but no more than 8 ounces 1 or 2 times a week. Otherwise, it starts affecting the headache cycle and frequency, and it's hard to then figure out how to control the headaches that come from the caffeine consumption. But the other food triggers that are pretty typical are the cheeses or the dairy in general. I like to think about those that tend to be more constipated. I know we get to talk about that. Or the opposite, just have stomach upset when they have dairy. A lot of times, they also have smaller headaches or moderate headaches, and they don't even think about it. And if you can just eliminate the dairy for 2-3 weeks, sometimes people can see a big difference in the intensity and frequency of headaches. But cheese in general within the dairy group is one that is very much recognized because of the tyramine as a potential food trigger. MSG is the one that people think about in Chinese food, Asian sauces, but it's actually found in a lot of packaged foods. So that's the monosodium glutamate. And I think, yeah, I heard somebody there. Sorry, monosodium glutamate. And it's actually, if you Google MSG and say MSG names, it's kind of sneaky because it has so many names. I want to say there's like over 25, and it's in like your packaged typical processed foods. So you may be eating healthy looking pre-prepped foods that have that typical MSG headache trigger, and ramen, for example. And by eliminating that, that's one of the days you can get rid of a food trigger for a headache. I point out those chips and packs of chips, not just because of the salt or the MSG content, but the other thing that's sneaky in there, like the hot chips, is the dye. The dye is also a particular trigger for a lot of people. Anyway, there's many things, and I'm not saying eliminate them all. It's just that it could be for you. That's one of the main sources that causes a headache. So those are food triggers. It has to be very individualized. You don't have to, well, you could eliminate them and then reintroduce them. You can create a 24-hour food review log. So if you have, let's say, 2 migraines a week, the day you have a migraine, 24 hours before that, you try to think about all the things you've eaten. And after a few times of doing that, you may find 1 or 2 things that's a pretty typical trigger for you. So that's how you do a food log. Writing it down every day can be very hard. And also, if you have a daily headache, usually there's too many things causing it that can be just too taxing. So I prefer the food log for more folks that are having non-daily headaches and more just the few times a week or something that's a little more manageable. The elimination diet is for more the daily headacher or the one that is just like, I don't even know where to start. I just want something to kind of follow. So let me go into that because I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We all talked about the common food triggers there. I do want to point out people want to always get some sort of skin testing or lab testing for food allergies. Unfortunately, those can be helpful, but when it comes to more like reactions, like severe allergic reactions, skin reactions, but it's not as helpful for food triggers and headache. So it really is more of a trial and elimination that works better for that. The salt, obviously, if you have a lot of salt, you are dehydrating yourself and it can cause a headache. Sugar, that's the big one for me. In my kids in my practice, I see 25 grams per day for ages 2 to 18 and no more than 8 ounces of sugar sweetened beverages per week. And obviously, a lot of us do more than that. So even just eliminating or decreasing your sugar could really help. A lot of things when you eliminate, you do want to try a good 4 weeks because you need to see that good amount of time to see if it's helping before you assume it doesn't. So I would recommend trying it for 4 weeks. Back to the elimination diet I was going to go into. So one of the more popular ones, I don't know if everyone's heard about it, is the Whole 30. Whole for Whole Foods, 30 for 30 days. And it's for 30 days. You eliminate possible offending food. And then after the 30 days, you slowly reintroduce each food that you eliminated. For example, the sugar, the dairy, and of course, the hot topic of gluten. This is a great one. A lot of my patients like to use it because it's got such easy rules online. You don't have to buy anything. It just tells you what you can and can't eat for 4 weeks, and then you reintroduce each thing. So that's very helpful. This tends to work when the whole family's on board. I usually have a parent and a child that are going to both do it together. I think I had one today that was like, yeah, we're going to try this. There's only 3 weeks to Christmas, but we're just curious if it'll help. So it's a really neat option for people who kind of want something structured. Of course, the keto and the modified Atkins diet. Keto is obviously very popular right now for a variety of reasons. In neurology, we use it actually to help seizures and epilepsy for kiddos that really have failed multiple medications. But true keto diet is so hard to stick to, and it requires a specialized dietitian to help them out. The one that we're seeing more out in the real world, if you will, like not related to seizure control, is not as restrictive. I think people are kind of like, I'm trying to stay under a certain carb and then restrictive protein and fat. But I think a lot of times what people think they're doing keto is probably more the modified Atkins, which is less restrictive. But they have both been found to help, surprise, surprise, headache. And if you think about it from what we just talked about, it gets rid of a lot of sugar. It gets rid of sodium because by default, you're eating a lot more vegetables and fruit and clean foods. So a lot of these things, if you really look back at it, it comes back to just eating well. So one of my favorite pyramids is not the old school pyramid. And I don't know if anyone could tell the difference with this pyramid. I don't know if anyone wants to chime in versus the old school pyramid, what the big difference is. I don't know if we have anybody brave enough to chime in, but anybody?
First person who volunteers can spin the prize wheel.
Ooh.
Want to. I mean,
I hope.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
That it's wider and also it has water on the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't recall the other one having water.
That is true. Water is very unique. What else do you see that's different? Or do you remember what the old pyramid showed? I'm not even sure if they teach this anymore, the old one. So the bottom of the pyramid in the old days was the grains, the 6 to 11 servings of grains, which is like the bread, rice, pasta. And I think everyone is pretty much on board that we shouldn't be eating tons of bread, rice, and pasta anymore. So what I love about this one is that they, yes, emphasize water as like one of the main things in diet, but the vegetables, 4 to 5 a day, because we are never getting enough vegetables, and the fruits. So we really need to have our most of our nutrition from that. And then you can see the grains went up above that. And anti-inflammatory, which is a little different than Mediterranean, which I'm going to flip back here.
So in
See-
the chat, we have some people
Oh, yeah?
responding to. Chris said milk is higher in the pyramid.
Mhm.
Olivia said, I'm surprised that tea is so high. And Tessa said there are a lot more categories and some are separated by groups into groups that there used to be in the same group.
Oh my goodness, such great comments. Awesome. And I feel like people are out there. So that's really good.
Yay.
Yay. So I don't know, do you need to do the prize wheel right now? Maybe? Or
I would have to borrow sharing screen, but I'm
okay.
keeping track. So I know Grace.
You know it?
Grace
Okay.
is
You guys
familiar.
all get a chance. So no, very, very good assessments. But yes, so let's talk about a little bit about what you said. So the tea, it's the white, green, and decaf, right? Because we don't want the caffeine, but the white and green are antioxidants. So this is an anti-inflammatory diet. So when you do green tea, and I know a lot of people like the Diet Lipton green tea, and I remember I'm from Japan, I would love if you could drink just pure green tea. If you were to drink tea, that would be the healthiest option. Now, that being said, it is caffeine, but it's a lot less caffeine than like coffee and soda. So it's just keeping it in mind. And this is assuming you don't have a daily headache and you only have migraine several times a month, that you can kind of incorporate this as a healthy thing. I love that they put fish and seafood in there separately for the healthy fats and then the lean protein. And then you see, I don't know if you can see, it's actually dark chocolate on top. Isn't that funny? So that's the anti-inflammatory dark chocolate. And then you got the healthy spices that everyone talks about, the turmeric these days, but it's garlic and ginger. Black pepper should be in there too. But all those things are so helpful for our body to just decrease inflammation and really make our body work better and thereby decrease pain, i.e. headaches as well. So just to compare again, you see the Mediterranean diet, which still has the old school grains and such, but it's going to talk about more of the whole grains. Their vegetables are a lot higher than the old the pyramid. And I'm sorry I didn't put the old one. I really don't like the old pyramid, so I didn't even want to give it any credence. And then interestingly, they put the red meat more on top and the sweets, obviously. But so just some things to think about. So here's where it kind of gets interesting, and then hopefully we can get it more individualized, whether it be through chat or just if people want to talk about it. So this is a typical food intake of James, a 12-year-old male with a diagnosis of migraine. He wakes up at 6 a.m. on a school day only, which means he has a regular sleep schedule. So keep in mind that that could be a trigger. At breakfast at 7, he may eat Lucky Charms or a Pop-Tart with chocolate milk, or skips the breakfast altogether. So we're looking at skipping the meal, not eating protein already on top of what we'll talk about in a minute. Snack is hot chips and Pepsi. Lunch is pizza and chocolate milk, or have a salad. And then it's always important to think about what a salad is, because what you and I think of salad is very different. And in his case, it was lettuce with ranch dressing. For a snack, he has either a ramen or a McDonald's and drinks a Frappuccino. And dinner, he has a meat and starch because he doesn't like to eat vegetables. He will eat corn and potatoes on occasion. Dessert, he likes to eat ice cream. And if he's still hungry, he will eat a late night snack of cereal. Water, he doesn't know how much he drinks. He just drinks from the fountain at the school, which you think about, maybe that's not enough, right? Because it's hard to get 64 ounces if you're just sipping at a water fountain. He does like to drink Gatorade, juice, Sprite, orange soda, the Diet Lipton green tea. Lies down at 10 p.m. but falls asleep later, and on phone until 1 a.m. So any thoughts on any of that? I'm probably talking to y'all that probably don't eat like this, but actually this is pretty typical of my patient population.
This poor kid has such a high sodium count.
Yes, sodium and
He's eating so much sodium.
sodium for sure. What else do you see?
Lots of cheese, not enough water.
Yeah, you guys are too professional at all this. Yeah.
No,
There's like there's no vegetables. Like,
Yeah, that's classic, unfortunately. I
No
mean,
fruit
gosh.
either.
Yeah, yeah. What about the sugar? That's the
Lots
big
of
one.
sugar.
Yep. Do we like the sugar content? If in a lot of this, the sodium, you guys are hitting it on there, and then just the variety, right? We talked about getting all the different colors because the colors in our fruits and vegetables give us different nutrients. So this is an inflamed diet. We talked about the anti-inflamed, but this is the inflamed diet. Okay. So I kind of just put in there, but you can see in orange the sugar amounts, the green, the sodium amounts. And I don't know if you remember, but it's down there for you. Sugar should have been no more than 25 grams added in a day. So he's already exceeding 200. And then the sodium, you want to be way less than that. And he's way over 2,500. I mean, just with the hot chips, that's a big one. I don't know if you all are big hot chips people, but hot chips and soda can hit the sodium just right there almost. So again, not saying get rid of fun foods forever. It's just like when I look at a patient like this, it's hard for me to be like, well, here are all your medicines because there's so many things causing his headache. So a lot of times when I first see a patient, I say, we've got to get back to zero as much as we can, whether it be, like you said, increasing the water, making sure we're on a sleep routine, and then we really focus on the diet. So now, probably in his case, what I usually start with, because I don't want to overwhelm him, is we need to do protein at breakfast and get rid of the sugary breakfast. So that's usually my first step so we don't go crazy. They also get rid of their MSG sodium snacks like the hot chips, of course, the caffeine. So usually most of my teens are willing to start there. And honestly, they start feeling so good just from that change that the next time I see them, getting the rest of it is pretty easy. I do have some athletes or some go-getters that want to start from the beginning and they go straight to that Whole30 I talked about. And the family and them just really come up with different ways to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that's been really fun to see too. And then they come back and give me ideas that I can then share with others.
I'm sorry. I actually have a question.
Yeah.
You said you put salad in quotes. So you said what we consider a salad may not be a salad to you. Could you
Oh,
talk
no,
about
no, no.
that?
Meaning like, so when someone says salad, I just want to make sure we know what's in it. So I want to give credit to the extra salad parts. So if like,
Oh,
so if one
okay.
person tells me they eat salad, I'm thinking, oh, they're getting cucumbers and tomatoes and you know what I mean? So they get extra color.
Yeah, so it's
But then
just
in his
lettuce
case, it was
with
lettuce and ranch. So I didn't get much of the other colors because red and orange is a really important one. So, you know, maybe throwing in some colored peppers, carrots, tomatoes, that would be great. And that would be
yeah.
a great first step. Like ask him to maybe eat those things in a salad. What I usually get is later on, I was like, I don't eat vegetables. So I'm like, cucumber is not too bad. It really has no taste. Like, you know, maybe we could try. So does that make
Well,
sense?
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So let's see what I had next. So overall, I like to tell people food is medicine, kind of like this kiddo. I'm not just going to throw a bunch of meds that could have side effects on him right off the bat. I'm not saying there's not a place for them, but we're going to talk about eating whole foods step by step for however he feels he wants to, but also where it can make the most impact. So increasing fruits and vegetables, that's a lot easier in my teens and above because it's up to you guys to make those decisions. The younger kids are a little difficult, but parents will try and be creative in figuring out ways to get in things like the zucchini bread option, right? And sticking in the zucchini somehow. Of course, not missing meals, hydrating well, protein with each meal. So we talked about, yeah, it's like, where's the protein? He's hungry. That's why he's eating all that too. The protein isn't filling him. So he's eating more of the late night cereal. He's sugar spiking. And when you sugar spike, you're hungrier. And that then triggers you to eat more of the bad foods. Talked about the food triggers, whether it be the food log, maybe the specific diet, looking at the anti-inflammatory diet or the Whole30. And then of course, some people do prefer just going to a nutritionist and trying to work with that. And honestly, it's helpful just to be able to have someone to look at your specific diet and think about where you can tweak things. And I say diet, but remember it's an eating style and more just a healthy pattern. I don't want you to, again, think of it as a rigorous prescription. So I talked about these two questions, but we kind of already started talking. Any particular questions, thoughts, or things you want to ask me? Were you guys totally like the healthy eaters and this did not speak to you at all because you do all this stuff?
Can I just say something?
Yes.
Like, I found this like just super interesting, but like I am more of a healthy eater.
Yeah.
I guess like you've kind of already gone over a lot of these things, but like what would be like an ideal recommendation of like someone living with migraine like to eat like over the course of a day?
Very detailed. So if you're already a healthy eater, and this might be a wheel opportunity, dun dun dun, but can you give me, and if you don't mind, and this is not a judging place at all, it's just me giving ideas, okay? But can you tell me kind of a typical day for you now?
Yeah, sure. So typically for breakfast, I will have some kind of egg, whether that be fried, poached, scrambled, whatever. A
Mm-hmm.
piece of toast, and then once in a blue moon meat with that.
Mm-hmm.
I might have a snack, but it's honestly rare.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the morning, I might have a snack, but it's pretty rare. If I do have a snack, so it's just like a granola bar or like fruit, cucumbers,
Mm-hmm.
a Baby Bell, a combination of
Mm-hmm.
the following.
Mm-hmm.
For lunch, I normally have a salad, a
Your
slice,
salad is dun dun. We have to
um,
tell.
pretty like usually like a Cobb salad with like lots of veggies, protein, or like a garden salad. I love Greek salads. House salad, something along those lines. Or I'll have like half a sandwich. So like that's kind of what I have for lunch. I rarely have an afternoon snack, like doesn't happen. Then for supper, I usually have like usually like my mom and I make some kind of like meats, like turkey, beef, whatever that may be, and like lots of vegetables.
Yeah.
Unless like we're going up to supper and it'd be something else. But that's typically what I eat in a day. But I also started having migraines like 5 years ago, and I was probably eating less healthier back then.
Yeah.
But I really realize now what an impact food and what I put into my body can have on my pain levels.
Yeah. So, yep, you're totally healthy, right? So what's the issue here? So in your case, and I could tell you guys are really into the food and you know what you're eating. It depends on your willingness and level, but it would be the Whole30 is probably the one you'd try. Have you already tried something like that?
No, I have not. Like this is the first time I've ever heard of that. So like
Yeah.
that was like the one new thing I definitely got out of.
Yeah.
Like I still like hearing about all the other things because like it's reassuring. It's always good to have that info, but that was like the one thing that really like stuck out for me. So
Yeah.
can you just like explain that concept again? Because like I
Sure.
kind of understood it, but like
Sure. So when someone like yourself, and I'm sure a lot of people, you guys are really active in Miles for Migraine and being supportive, like, so you're kind of like just more the advanced patients, I would say, you really are looking into this stuff. Um, so the Whole30, I like to say whole because it's WHOLE 30. And I don't get any money for saying that. It's always nice to say. I like it. I do it all the time myself. So it's an idea of getting rid of certain food groups that are inflammatory. We talked about sugar. So there's no sugar in Whole30. There is no dairy. We talked about cheese as being a sugar, so that makes sense. There is no gluten. But if you think about it, what it is, it's not that they're getting rid of gluten. What they're doing is they're asking that you lean on vegetables. So the carbohydrates you're getting, it's not a low carb diet, is from vegetables and potatoes and things like that. It is available. Just Google Whole30 or Whole30.com, I think is still completely free. And they just give you guidelines. The book is hilarious. I like to tell the little background of the story was a physical therapist had I believe, a sister with rheumatoid arthritis and had so much pain and nothing was working. So he would just really kind of delved into nutrition and created this elimination diet for her. And was just trying to see if it could calm down some of her flares and her arthritis. And it did. So that was kind of the birth of that, if you will. But elimination diets have been around. That just has a nice name to it and it's easy to follow. So in your case, what would happen is the eggs part is great, the meat part is great, but the toast would be gone. And honestly, in Whole30, they don't even recommend a gluten-free toast. They really just recommend you would do fruit instead of the toast completely. And then the lunch, you would have no dairy on your salad, but you'd add everything else. And of course, the dressings and stuff that you would make sure is sugar-free. I love to do like just olive oils and vinegars that are infused with different fruits. So that's really cool. And that's an option and that would be easy for you to tweak. And it sounds like your dinner is pretty easy because it's just the meat and vegetable as well. So a lot of times people lean on the butternut squash or sweet potato to just add that sweet and then the carby filling sensation. The other thing, other than the Whole30, which did you get all that on the Whole30? Was that enough on that?
Yes, thank you so much. I just found a few infographics, and then thanks Kelly for putting the website link.
Oh, okay. I don't even see that part. So I'm like, oh. The other thing I would think about listening to you is I don't know if you're athletic or if you do a lot of exercise.
I'm a dancer and a swimmer, so I probably do an hour of physical activity a
Yeah.
day.
Yes. So I was kind of wondering also about actually not possibly in your case it would be that you're not eating enough protein frequently. Like for
Yeah,
you,
yeah, like that's actually an issue that I have. My
yeah,
doctors have said that and healthcare providers.
yeah. So
Yeah,
like
it's something I am trying to work on.
so I think in your case the I don't like snacking, which honestly we're over snacking. You know, I have 2 little ones and everything in life is around snacking and it's like we don't snack. Yeah. But in your case or active folks or those with migraines, you may find you need a protein snack in between meals.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I will definitely look into trying to add that into my daily routine. Yeah. Like that is something I'm working on for sure. Yeah. Like my doctors said that like my iron levels are quite low. So,
Yes. And so, and you know, most of the people, it's a segue, I don't know, Kelly, if that's okay. Almost everybody I see with headaches are low in iron. And even if you're not fully anemic, that's just partly because we're just not eating iron rich foods, right? And almost everybody ends up needing an iron supplement. So having a good practitioner that can check that ferritin level would be awesome.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know if anyone else had kind of like a date.
I actually have a comment, I guess, more or less than a question. Um, I when I started getting migraines, my mom looked into everything she possibly could, and she found the elimination diet, and I tried it for about 2 months. And I have more daily headaches, and then about every couple weeks I have a bad migraine.
Okay.
So
When you tried it for 2 months, and what do you remember if it was what kind of elimination it was?
it was no gluten and no dairy
Mhm.
and almost no sugar.
That's awesome. So sometimes when I see people that don't respond to that, and of course not everybody responds to everything. Um, Sometimes having a more strict regimen, because Whole30 will have a lot of preservatives and stuff listed that you're not supposed to have. It's not just, I told you the big guns, if you will, but there's a lot of other things you're supposed to remove. So that could be what in your case with the daily headache, it sounds like you have 2 different issues that they'd have to address. So I would wonder if your migraine frequency, the big headaches went down during that. Did it? I don't know.
I really noticed no difference at
So
all.
your frequency of the
And
big ones too didn't work.
no, not really. And I was just a little miserable because I couldn't eat the foods that I
Yes.
wanted. And I was also
Yes.
still getting
And
headaches.
yes. And so that would be, and that's what I like about Whole30 is it's 30 days for the ones if you do it for 30. And then you can reintroduce. Most feel better that they don't want to restart certain foods. But usually by the 2-month mark, there's a holiday, a birthday or something, and somebody wants to try something. But most of the time, people would notice enough of a difference for it to be helpful. So in your case, if it wasn't helpful, that's probably not a case. So what I would do in your case was a 24-hour food recall for the big migraines and see if you can find a pattern there.
Well, I've actually noticed that whenever I eat chocolate and whenever I took that out, I feel better. So sadly, no chocolate for me.
Or just in moderation, or have you noticed, is it certain ones like can you have dark chocolate and not milk?
I'm pretty sure it's milk chocolate.
Because it's higher sugar. And
Yeah.
that's why, and dark chocolate, remember, is healthy for us, right? In moderation. So maybe that would be,
Yes.
or is it the caffeine? I'm not sure. But see right there, you did a different form of a food trigger. So that's smart. The daily headaches are the hardest because there's so many things. I don't know where the sleep and the water intake, and of course the stress, all that can play a part. And then the iron, even what someone just mentioned. Most of the time, people don't check iron levels specifically. They can do a quick finger poke, but that's not what I mean when I say iron check. You want to look at the ferritin, which is the iron store.
Well, I actually just got Botox done today, so I'm
First
hoping
time?
that works. First time. I went
Okay.
yesterday and
Alright.
I fainted when they put me in the chair.
Oh,
So I had to come back today
oh, I'm sorry. And
and
you got it
finish it.
done. And
I
you
guess
did
I
it.
really don't like needles.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's so many things. And remember, I like integrative. So that truly means you use all the tools. Today, we just really focused on food and headaches. But I mean, we do it all. We do the nerve blocks to Botox to IVs, all the invasive stuff to acupuncture and all the other things that are neuromodulations. There's so many things. Whatever works for each of you individually is what I recommend.
Well, fingers crossed. Thank you.
Sure. Any other burning food questions from anybody?
Well, Olivia has, I don't know, Tova, if you saw the comments in the chat, but Olivia and Tessa have some positive words for you.
Oh,
I'm trying to find the chat.
I think,
Yeah.
I'm totally not looking at the chat. I'm looking at just my two faces and I'm hoping, I'm like, I can't see anybody. So maybe I better look at the chat. Do I need to start looking? Let's see.
You could stop sharing if you want, so I can share the wheel eventually.
Oh, that's my puppy, by the way.
Oh.
He's eating lettuce, see? His salad.
Oh, sweet.
All right, stop sharing. There you go. And that way we could do the wheel, right?
Yeah, I'll bring that up in just a second. Tessa had mentioned that she eats whole foods, no sugary foods, and wanted to know what else she could do because she doesn't eat the processed foods or the sodium. Tessa, was the conversation helpful for you, or is there another question that you have to follow up? And you could use the chat or you can unmute.
I think when it's it's overwhelming and you don't know where to start, but you're kind of interested in kind of a very structured option, that's where the Whole30 kind of is helpful. If you're not sure where to start, but you're not eating sugary and processed foods too much, some people like to start literally just with dairy elimination. And then that would be 2 to 3 weeks of no dairy, 100%, and then reintroduce. Even if it's folks like, of course, there's the ones that drink tons of milk, like ice cream, cheese, and everything. They eliminate, usually there'll be a big difference right away. But even folks that only put a little bit of cheese here and there and have cream here and there, find when they remove it 100%, they actually feel better. For some, this is just throwing it out there for some.
And Grace just mentioned, Grace has daily headaches and migraine and was wondering if you had any specific recommendations for vegans. She takes supplements and she's talked to nutritionists, but wanted some more input on that.
Vegan and vegetarian, even that is like the hardest with migraine. I know even with all the supplements, and then trying to do the best you can, most of the times, especially, I'm assuming, is this a teenager? Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. Yeah. It is very, very hard to do that on a vegan diet. It's hard, but I know it's a choice as well. So that's why getting the right, I would say, integrative registered dietitian. And there are several out there, and a lot of them, especially nowadays, do virtual visits. So I don't know if your nutritionists were, again, integrative registered dietitians. For example, near where I am in Kansas City, KU has a master's program for that, and they're very specified. But I find their way of managing headache, and especially with vegan, would be a lot more helpful. But the iron is hard on that. Oh, and then the carbs, right, are really high on it. And so I just start worrying about all that.
Does anyone here eat a lot of breakfast cereal? Like, I've read in a book recently that like most of it is actually really, really high in sugar, even like the ones like Raisin Bran.
Yeah.
Do you have any input on cereals, and then as well as fruits? Like, does picking certain fruits matter for sugar content?
I honestly am very excited when we can just get off added sugar, that if people are eating fruit, you know what I mean? Like, I think we'd really solve a lot of problems. But then when we come, I would really hope that people really get their 4 to 5 servings of vegetables, because most people, I think, only have 1 or 2 a day, if that, right? But yeah, the cereals, I'm always like, eggs are great. If we can eat eggs, we're not sensitive to eggs, I think that's a great place to be.
Also, I had a question. If like whole wheat multigrain things have any different impact from like white flour, white pasta, that kind
Not
of
in
stuff.
terms of headache for my benefit. You know how we talked about the lower carb like keto and the modified Atkins. So it doesn't differentiate in terms of headache management. It's a carb is going to affect the sugar content. The reason we like whole grain is because there's a little more fiber. It might make you feel fuller a little longer. That's how it's kind of, everyone got excited about it. Whereas white bread, white pasta brings up that sugar in the blood really quickly. So that's the reason. But honestly, if we can get away from bread in general, I know that's so hard, totally hard, but, and then in moderation, once you can control the headaches. And if your headaches are well controlled, enjoy it here and there, you know? That's why the Mediterranean diet was like, oh, whole grains, you know, but the anti-inflammatory, if you remember, had the veggies and fruit, and their grains were not very much, but it's kind of in the middle.
There we go. I was struggling there for a minute. All right.
Fun.
As my teen talks, teens know I'm great with screen share. Okay, Grace, you were the first one to participate. So I'm going to hit spin for you because unfortunately you can't spin it yourself on my screen. But okay, this is for Grace. So Grace, get ready.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, you can't hear it because of my audio.
Oh, there's
That's
a
a bummer.
sound.
Oh, it's so loud. It's so loud for me. Okay, Grace, you want a buff. Hold on, let me undo my speakers real quick. So you can hear it. It's so exciting. Disconnect. Here we go. Okay, so Grace won a buff. I should write this down, but I'll remember. Okay, who was second? Chris also participated as well as, okay, let's go for Chris. Let's do Chris right now. If Chris is still on the line, here we go. Ready? Ooh, now you can hear it. Yes. Ooh. Oh. Okay, it's a little extra. You guys have to bear with me. But Chris already got a face covering from last time. So Chris, you'll have to re-roll. So here we go for Chris again. Okay, yay.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I was wondering what to shop for the Whole30 diet, and how to transfer to the diet with the food I have in storage or in my house.
No, really good question. So if you can get her book, it's really thin and again, really funny book. She kind of goes into that, but the idea is we don't want to like obviously throw out and waste a ton of food, right? But at the same time, when you're going to do a slow transition and basically take a couple weeks to start planning how you're going to do it, what kind of meals, and you can go Whole30 breakfast, lunch, dinner if you want specific ideas. I'm the kind, I just prefer to know what I can and can't eat, and then I come up with my own. So whichever way works for you. So bottom line is kind of think about it, go with your family, friends, come up with a plan, because 30 days seems long, but it's also pretty short. And then get your groceries and list and come up with that. Does that make sense?
I have another question.
Mhm.
I was wondering if, because I know there was the first slide that I saw was like recommending the Mediterranean diet, and the other one was the 30 diet, and there were some differences. So I was wondering like what you would recommend kind of going with more, and like does it like depend whether it's like daily headache or migraine?
That's actually a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up because so the whole 30, remember, is 30 days. So you reintroduce foods after 30 days. So it's just a tool to figure out if there's certain foods or food groups that can be worsening for your symptom, headache or arthritis or whatnot. Mediterranean diet is the general recommendation for like the dietary guidelines, the government. A lot of people defer to it for when it's like, what's a healthy diet in general? And people don't know what to say. That's the diet they recommend for everybody, anybody and everybody. So Whole 30 is a temporary diet. Mediterranean is like everyone should think about it diet. And then your diet is what you end up coming to after you figure out, like you said, I think this is, I don't know who's talking, but the one that said you've already done the elimination diet, right? You had already said, am I talking to the right
That's
person?
me.
So I asked the vegan question. I eat like
Okay.
mostly Mediterranean foods,
Oh, okay.
but that's why I had that question. I eat like a lot of like whole foods. I do want to say that just because I know there's some people that are vegan that I know that eat like
Oh, no, you're eating
and
healthy. No, a lot of my vegan patients are very healthy. It's just getting the iron and the nutrients are still so hard on it. So I guess the question would be, or the answer should be that I just want to make sure people don't think Whole 30 is like what you eat forever. It's just a tool. And then Mediterranean is one of the renowned healthier eating patterns. What you would end up doing, again, it's going to be difficult as a vegan, but I would really make sure your iron has been, I'm sure, checked, right? The ferritin.
yes, it has.
Okay. And have they optimized it to 50 to 80? Because that's the one that a lot of times they don't think to go between that 50 to 80, but that's key.
Wait, so what? So I thought that you get your, maybe I misunderstood your question. I thought that you get that like checked with your blood, because I've gotten my blood checked and
Yes.
stuff before.
Yes.
But I don't know what the
And
thing
what
you were
is the
saying about
range that she's referring to?
the 50 to 80 thing, what that's
The
referring to.
ferritin, a lot of times people only do the CBC, the complete blood count, to look for the hemoglobin and the hematocrit. So especially if you're, and that's where with nutritionists have been working with you, I would assume someone's really checking the ferritin level, which is the iron store. It's a venipuncture. It can't be done by the finger prick. Just specific to yours that you might want to make sure that they're really checking that one. But
I have another question.
okay.
How often in a healthy diet could you eat foods that could possibly not be the healthiest and still be able to get the benefits of a healthy diet?
Gosh, you guys ask such good questions. Obviously individual, right? To the person that talked about chocolate, it sounds like she can't eat it at all because every time it gives her a headache. And she's kind of like, well, that's it for chocolate for me. So for her, eating that chocolate's not worth the headache. But I have a few people that love pizza, but they're very sensitive to dairy. So they limit themselves to having it 1 to 3 times in a month. And that's just the happy medium they've found. So it's more up to you. And it really is, because you could have the same sensitivity of cheese to the next person, but yours may be more intense of a headache or more intense upset stomach issues than the person to the right. So they can tolerate more pizza, I'm just giving that as an example, but. And it changes with time too. So, if you go really long and then you ingest something, you may find you can eat it a few times and have no problem. So it kind of comes and goes. It's just, again, one tool, guys, is so many things you can do. And I know just people don't talk about it very much because it's so complicated, but it's just a tool.
I have a question for Miss Kelly.
Yes.
What's a buff?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
So, okay, they're those super cool. They like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like it goes over your head and it's almost like a turtleneck, but it's just you like pull it over as like a mask, or it could be like a scarf.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I actually had to ask my boss the same question when we made this wheel, and I asked what prizes we have. I had no idea what a buff was either. So, but they're awesome. Actually, it's like my favorite prize on here, probably.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, Tova, let's spin the wheel for you. Okay. Everybody ready? This is so exciting.
Well, I appreciate everyone listening. I know it was a really long talk, so hopefully you guys got something out of it.
Ooh, Tova.
T-shirt.
Yay.
Nice. What, you can message me or just tell me if you don't want to tell me your size in front of everyone, but, or you could just message me or tell me.
Medium's fine.
Okay, great. Not trying to put you on the spot. All right. Let's see. Tessa, are you still on the call? I appreciate all of your participation. So this is for Tessa. And if not, then you'll still get it in the mail because I have your address. All right. So Tessa gets a face covering. Exciting. And I did Chris. I did Grace. Olivia, how could I forget?
Can I say something first before you spin?
Of course.
It's obligated to spin for me because I'm Canadian. I'm just happy to be here because there's no support groups in Canada. So if you can't send it to me, I do not care by any means. I'm just the Canadian pal joining because Canada does not have support groups for migraines. And even if it's American based, I still thought it'd be a great opportunity. I'm from New Brunswick. So yeah, no need to spin for me if you don't want to. I understand. No hard feelings.
Well, I actually don't know if we ship international, but we'll spin anyway, and just in case we can, okay? So this is for Olivia.
And Olivia, be encouraged. A lot of American Headache Society members are from Canada.
I do apologize for the loud music.
No, like advocacy for migraines in Canada is not the best, not gonna lie. Like we have free healthcare, but our actual advocacy around migraines is kind of blah.
Well,
so I
guess you're it, huh, Olivia? I guess Olivia's starting it then.
Don't be sorry for the music. It does it for me.
Great.
Okay. My size is small.
Small. Okay, great.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, really no worries. I'm just happy to be here. This is just such a great opportunity, and I'm just thankful that Zoom allows me to do this. Being miles away from you all. in Riverview, New Brunswick, a population of 20,000 is pretty small.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, we have people from the West Coast and East Coast. So
I was wondering where everyone was from today.
I can't remember. I know we got Florida. I know Tova's in Florida and Chris is in Myrtle Beach. I know that much.
Wow, everywhere. How fun.
Grace, I think, is in Philly. I might be wrong on that. I think I'm right, though. I'm in Chicago. You're in Kansas City.
Wow.
I'm curious, Miss Kelly, what's the temperature right now?
Oh, my goodness. Let me look. I think it was like 30. Let me get you the official AccuWeather temperature. 34.
Wow, that's crazy. It's actually freezing in Florida right now. It's 45.
Oh, maybe you'll get snow this year.
No, it won't happen, unfortunately.
Bummer.
I live near Disneyland, so not in the
Tova's never seen
Panhandle.
snow, so
no way. I am so jealous. Like,
don't
like,
be.
like I will send you guys like pictures of like Canadian winter once
I was gonna say
once it gets like right in like the midst of it. Next week is the start of a long 4-month journey. So
you're gonna take that back after it feels like 108 outside.
Yeah, but like would you want to live in mountains and mountains of snow?
Yes.
Just saying. I guess because like the heat sounds exciting to me, that sounds exciting to you. You know what I mean? It's because like you aren't used to it all the time. But I mean, at least it's pretty. Like my backyard is gorgeous. When you see deer come out of like the woods and stuff, that's really pretty.
You can throw a snowball at someone. I mean, I could pick the humidity.
Of Canada, of New Brunswick landscape, Google Hopo Rocks or Fundy National Park, and it will not disappoint. It is beautiful.
I'd love to go to Canada someday.
Okay, well, I appreciate you all coming, and I want to apologize again for last week because I totally got cooking and forgot to start the call. So
oh
that's
my gosh, it's
bad.
fine. I was just paranoid.